in place to target the demand for child sex work?
Not on the federal side. There are laws locally,
Okay.
but they're prostitution laws like solicitation and things like that. I would say that although these laws exist locally, they don't carry very heavy penalties. They're not taken very seriously by the prosecutors, and actually the prosecutors have asked us not to target Johns. Until you address the demand side, you're not really making a dent in anything, because human trafficking is based on money. People, but people talk about sex and they snicker about the sex, but for people in that it's about money.
What do you want to see changed in the law, perhaps in the federal law, that would make this easier?
On the federal side, I think we have to address the demand side. People say the John side, whatever anybody wants to call this, because until you address this side with laws that effectively and really penalize these people, you're not really addressing human trafficking. You can't ignore your major, money. They're the ones supplying the money, and until you address it, you're just spinning your wheels at this point. And so until you have laws that actually penalize people that go after girls that are under 18, whether the John knows it or not, you should be penalized for that. Until federal people start to look at trafficking seriously in a different attitude than 1975, where everybody thinks this is a big party, until you start to really address it, it's just a joke. And we'll just continually look at the girls as the criminals, think of traffickers as pimps, which makes them into a joke, until we change the whole attitude and make everybody accountable through laws, through sentencing, through prosecutors understanding the need for this. We're stuck back in 1975. We really are. And in order to progress trafficking into a real serious issue that people have to deal with, and change the laws, you're not going to address this properly. Federal laws we don't even have, and even locally, it's not taken seriously. Trafficking's about lying and hiding. It's a culture that from the girl calling herself Susie, her name's not Susie, to the guy calling himself, and to the pimp, to the John. It's all done in the darkness. What we want to do is start revealing these people to the light, showing this is who you are. It's not the Wizard of Oz. People use the internet now as the Wizard of Oz, and as long as you can hide behind the screen and you can talk about 500 girls a year supporting an industry, as long as nobody knows you're a married executive, though.
Right.
And it's our job to show you're a married executive too, because there's penalties more than just a fine of $500 and a year probation. There's got to be bigger penalties than that.
So you would probably say that this is both a matter of law and a matter of enforcement?
Yeah, I'd say it's a matter of law and enforcement of different jurisdictions also taking this attitude. Most jurisdictions don't center on the Johns, but some of the main reasons that they don't is their prosecutors don't want you to do that. We even have judges that we had to educate a little bit, because really they'll say, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Kenny, and I had one say, if there's not prostitute, they're going to go raping women. Again, I think you're living in 1975. I really do, and I think if you think it's consensual, I think you're kind of naive. I'm not a bit. I'm not an advocate. I know that I've learned a lot in 2 years. That a girl that's harbored in a hotel room and is not allowed to leave, and her trafficker picks up the food, controls every movement she does, and gives all her money to this guy, and whoever knocks on the door, she is forced to have sex with. I'm not so sure that's consensual, but that's just my attitude. I'm not denying that maybe that there are. However, I think we need to look at this as for what it is, and at first I'm going to treat you like a because one of the things, but just like in domestic violence, a lot of women that were victims of domestic violence say, he doesn't mistreat me. He does. Some of it is pure fear. I'm not going to say it. And two, there's a brainwashing process to go, well, he loves me so much that he hits me and makes because he loves me. If he didn't love me, he wouldn't care. Well, the girls go through the same process to where it takes a while for them to say, so where's all your money? Oh, Kenny, I make thousands of dollars a week. I'm not saying you don't. Where is it? Oh, he's keeping it for me. You don't have a car. You don't have a driver's license. It's very similar to domestic violence and what you saw in the 50s. But when she stayed inside and she was dictated by the man to do certain things, he's just using her. Do you know that the average lifespan for a prostitute is 7 years? Once you come into prostitution, you're usually dead in 7 years. And that the average age to start prostitution is 13 years old. This is a recruiting process. And so it's so easy to say, Kenny, them John, they're just guys. If you see it from a bigger picture than that, though, and you start looking at MySpace, Facebook, and your own daughters there, and some guy comes in there, and you start seeing the recruiting process of one of the judge's suburban daughters, suddenly their attitudes change real quick. We all want to believe this is, and it doesn't make it any better. It makes it just as worse if an inner city person is recruited. But I will tell you, there are differences in the way it's perceived. And that's why we start doing things in the county, because we have to show that it's at every level. Otherwise, people just blow it off.
So it's not only a law or enforcement issue, it's an issue of public perception too?
Public perception, education, and bringing a dose of reality to people, because most people don't see this in their lives. They have their perceptions from what TV tells you it is. From Starsky and Hutch, and we all want to believe Pretty Woman. You watch Pretty Woman, people say, it ain't that bad. I can tell you that if somebody goes into these rooms with us, you'll see it's that bad. When you see there's a girl in Damascus that was killed, found buried in the woods. If you look at serial killers, there is a huge amount of victimization in this thing, and that is hidden. We don't even know all the crimes and violence that occur, because if you're a John, if you're a trafficker, if you're the traffic, a lot of things are happening to you that you're not coming to the police to report, and it's violent. I call it organized violent crime. And the major thing we have to do is, laws have to be changed, police have to do it, but we have to educate and change people's perception